Welcome. My name is Nate Stutz, Superintendent of Perry Local Schools. I appreciate you joining us today for the Perry Panthers podcast. The intent and purpose of this podcast is really just to celebrate and acknowledge a lot of the wonderful things going on in our district. Our goal, ideally, will be to do this periodically, probably once every week or two. And once again, it's just to celebrate all the wonderful things going on in our district. Joining me today is Mr. Kevin Yoder, our new athletic director, Mr. Zach Slates, our head football coach, and Mr. Rich Leone, assistant superintendent of the school district. Mr. Leone?
Yeah, so welcome everybody to the Triple P, the Perry Panther podcast. And one of the things that I love about Perry is the passion for sports. And so we thought it would be fitting for our first podcast to kick off with you two gentlemen. And a couple of years ago, so it was almost like my first week on the job as high school principal. And I remember like the week of, I think you might have even told me, Coach, that like, yeah, well, you guys will be marching down to the game. I was like, what are you talking about marching down to the game? Like, yeah, your student body and the band and the cheerleaders, and we marched down to the game. And both schools are about a mile apart from each other, so it's pretty cool. And it's our turn to march down there, and game one is tomorrow. So just kick us off a little bit. Big game, but you know, how has summer gone for you? How's the team looking, and are you ready for tomorrow?
Yeah, I mean, it's been a good summer, good off season for our kids. We're pretty young. We have a small senior class. We only got 9 seniors this year, but we got 20 in the junior and sophomore class. We got 36 in the freshman class, 38 to 40 in our 7th and 8th grade, both of those classes. So numbers are improving, going up as we go. We're just getting out of the COVID era, and where kids weren't doing as much, and they had a lot of other things to worry about at the time. So we're getting those numbers back up, and summer workouts were great. We had a good off season, good leadership on this team. I know the senior class is small, but we have kids leading in all the grades, so it's good. And culminating now in the first week against Central, it's always good to have a little rivalry game in Perry Township. So we're ready to go.
So what's summer camp look like to you? Like what do you guys do to prepare?
So we typically have in the past had a week of camp coming right out of the end of school in the beginning of June, and then we'll have another one at the end of July. So this year we were able to get a couple extra days in May. So we don't want to interfere with other sports, so we just did a couple days, and there were some kids like Carson Basham and those guys that were still competing in track, so they weren't able to practice with us, but they were able to come get mental reps and see what we're doing. And we did a lot of classroom stuff, video stuff for those 3 days in May. And then, 2 days, it's a lot quicker than they used to be. We used to have 20 days when I was in school, so it's going down to 7 2-days. It's a bit different for these kids now. So
in the old days, it would like 2 days would have been like, you remember, you used to come in the morning, go hard for a couple hours, get a little break, you know, and then almost like come back in the evening. How do you structure 2 days now?
So we just go out for one practice. It's just one long practice in the morning, and then we essentially do a lot of film study and things like that in the afternoon. Going back out there after 12 o'clock can be counterproductive at times because it gets so hot on that turf, especially. You go out there and you'd see the heat ripples coming off the turf, and you just wouldn't be looking forward to it. So doing film study, ice bath, rehab stuff that way to get the kids prepared, keep them going, and keep them fresh as possible. So that's the format of our 2 days.
Okay.
Coach Slates, heading into week one, give us a little bit of insight, a little bit of a preview about the Central Catholic team we'll see tomorrow night.
Yeah, I mean, they have a good team. They have a transfer quarterback from East Canton who's a good runner, thrower, tall kid. Their defense always gives us some troubles because playing the wing tee is tough for people, and when you're the first game of the season, it makes it a little bit easier because you have all summer to prepare for it, not just 4 days. So they always play us well defensively, and they always have athletes on the edge that can run and catch the ball. So they present a little bit different challenges for us than any other team.
Obviously, I mean, that's week one, and not to get too far ahead of ourselves, but what do our other non-conference games look like this season?
So we go to week 2 is St. Vincent St. Mary's, and then Euclid is week 3, and then Louisville week 6. So those are our out-of-conference games, and then obviously we have a Federal League.
Now, are all of those? This is year 1 of the contract with St. V's.
Yeah.
And then Euclid, this would be year
2. Yeah.
2, and
Yep.
then
Louisville, we're done playing Euclid and Louisville after this year. So St. V's will be on the schedule next year, and then we added Warren Harding for week 3, and we're going to be looking for a week 7. So
It's a great game, Warren Harding.
Mm-hmm.
It's good. What about the league? I mean, we always say the league is such a grind.
Mm-hmm.
Not that you want to look, I know, past Central, but just give our viewers maybe an idea of how good the Federal League is typically, and then how good you think it's going to be this year, top to bottom.
Yeah, I mean, it's always a grind in the Federal League, and we always have tough competition every week, and Antonio's getting things turned around at McKinley, getting their numbers back up. Obviously, Jackson has 109 kids on the team, I think.
Wow.
But at the same time, you only play 11, so numbers are good, but they can always be counterproductive too when you get too many. Green obviously has a lot of skill. There you got a good running back and quarterback and all that. Hoover's got a really good quarterback, senior, played there for 3 years, so they're going to be tough. And then Glen Oaks, Coach Garcia is getting their program on the right direction, and he said there was, I can't remember exactly how he worded it, but they had to patch a ship, they had to float the ship, and then now they got the ship going in the right direction over there. So he is getting it back to where he had it before, and they're going to be tough as can be, because I mean they're one of the biggest schools in the Federal League, and they have a unique mix of demographics there. So they're always a different type of team for us to play against.
So probably one of the, beyond just looking at your varsity team, your JV, freshman, your high school program per se, a big part of running an athletic program is the program from high school on down. And truly, your middle school and your elementary youth programs are the lifeblood of a successful program. Talk to us a little bit about where your youth program's at, and yeah, I mean, how you've seen it grow. Just share a little with us, Zach.
Yeah, I mean, so last year we did some things a little differently than we had in the past, and we added a second grade to sixth grade flag league, because that's a big thing across the state. A lot of the bigger schools are doing that, allowing kids to play flag all the way up till sixth grade. It worked out great for us last year. We had 81 kids in it last year. Got some kids back out for football, and that's, I mean, football is a sport that's always been under attack because of people think that it's the most head injury prone sport. In reality, it's not. It's like third or fourth with concussions. So, but just having that availability for something different for the kids to be able to do, it's grown our youth league. It's brought kids back out for football, and then this year has brought them back to tackle. And we had some changes in our youth program or youth organization. We have 14 new board members this year, so that has helped as well, get more kids back out for the sport and get them involved. And those guys have done a great job we started a rookie tackle, and it's coincides with the Cleveland Browns, so they've done a lot of things with the Cleveland Browns. And this past weekend was the kickoff day. We had Glen Oak and us compete in the second grade rookie tackle, and the Cleveland Browns were here. Some of their representatives they had a vehicle here. They had some games, some handouts, and things like that. And then we actually had a young man do the coin toss at their preseason game on Friday. So that was a unique experience, and it was a draw of all the kids to see who'd be able to do it. And then this coming the 28th, I believe, our second to sixth grade flag teams are going up to Cleveland Browns Stadium, and they're going to be playing games in the stadium. So it will be a great experience for them, and they've done a great job doing little things like that to create a better experience for the kids, a unique experience for the kids to keep them out and playing football.
Very good.
Coach, how important is it for you? I know tomorrow it will be important, but throughout the season, the passion that we have around our student body, the jungle as we call it here. What does that do for the team? Again, I'll go back to a couple years ago when it was my first game experience, and I'm looking behind me on the sidelines, and there's just a sea. There's 500 students in the stands, and the marching band next to them, and the cheerleaders. And I mean, I know that it gave me chills, and I had no business, having chills about anything. I wasn't playing or coaching, but what's it do for the team?
No, it's good. It's a great experience here, and that's something that I really try to get our kids involved in the off season with the other sports as well, because obviously football is one of the bigger sports for fans and kids to come to, and I try to just reciprocate that to our other sports, because it's important for our kids to be involved with all the sports and all the other programs, and be supporting those kids that come out and support us. And it's really special, because we do have a lot of kids that come out, and especially with the home games and just different things like that. And Keith Brown doing a great job with the jungle and getting the themes out, and getting the kids excited for something different each week. I think helps the kids get involved, and they have some say into what theme it is. So it's really good to see all the kids out there, and our kids really enjoy playing in front of a big crowd, and that's what we talk about all summer. Is you're gonna be playing in front of a couple thousand people, so you got to be ready to go. You got to be loud, you got to be vocal, and when you're making calls on the field, you got to be ready for that. So it is a unique and great experience in Stark County, football like no other. So
great. Now, my sources tell me that we might have a passing attack this year. Are my sources accurate, or you don't want to divulge that information so early in the season?
No, we're gonna try to throw the ball more. And Austin Maddox, our quarterback, has done a great job in the off season with J.J. Wilson and Luke Wolf and Kyson Walker and Carson Basham and all those guys. He's worked with them throwing the ball, and those guys catching. And it's not just about somebody being able to throw the ball. You got to have people that can catch it and run routes good and do those types of things as well. So I think our kids have done a good job preparing themselves, and he's busted his butt since December, every weekend going and throwing somewhere, whether it's here or with a trainer, or he's worked with Tom McDaniels and Jim Ballard and some of those guys to help him as well. So it's been a good off season for him.
No, that's great. Final question I have is the health of the team. So obviously I know Carson got banged up. Great kid, great team leader, and I know we're hopeful that he's able to at some point return. But how's the team looking coming into week one out of summer as far as injury report goes?
Yeah, I mean not bad. We had two kids get injured pretty badly in the scrimmage, but we had another kid break his arm. But nothing else really, just the two kids from the scrimmage. And we're hopeful to get Carson back as soon as possible and get him going again. If that's week 5 or 8 or whatever it might be, I'm hopeful for him to be able to return at some point this year.
Well, thanks for joining us, Zach. I know you and your staff, your players, have all worked extremely hard to put yourselves in a position to be competitive this year, and just looking forward to the season, the opportunities for your team, and just very, very excited for. I always say, like, the beginning of school, school's about ready to start when you see kids putting on pads and you hear the marching band practicing, and it's that time. It's time to start playing, and just very excited for you and your opportunity tomorrow night to kick off the season. Go Perry.
Yep, go Perry.
How's the job going, Mr. Yoder?
So far, so good.
I'm going to put you on the spot and give us a little bit of background on your educational, athletic, administrative experiences.
All right. Well, I guess this is going to be year 29 in education. I was a high school social studies teacher and head baseball coach for 26 years. The past 2 years I spent as athletic director and assistant principal at Coshocton High School, and thrilled when I had the opportunity to come up here and be the athletic director here at Perry.
Fall sports is underway, so we just talked about football.
Right.
then we had boys soccer last night. You and I got to watch a win, which was exciting. But if you don't mind, just going through sort of team by team. Yeah, just maybe like a little preview where teams are at. I know you've been working hard with the coaches.
Yeah.
How are the coaches feeling about getting everything up and running, and anything else you want to share?
Yeah, well, obviously this is the fun stuff once we get into seasons, and some of our sports teams are in full go already. Soccer opened last night. Our boys opened last night, like you said, with a nice win down at Dover, 2-1. Our girls open tonight with Canton Central Catholic. That game actually just got moved to the turf starting at 7:15 because of all the rain that we've had. I know coaches excited to get started with the girls soccer. So far their scrimmages have gone well. Our boys scrimmages have gone well. They're both pretty optimistic about the season. Sounds good. Our golf has started a couple weeks ago. They've already had, I believe they've each had 4 or 5 invites that they've competed in. Our girls, according to Coach Pierce, scores are much improved from last year. He's excited where they're at. Our boys have been finishing. They were at a couple big tournaments. They finished in the middle of the pack early on, but their scores have been getting better. Just talked to Coach Pierce this morning. They're in a big golf invite tomorrow. They had a pretty good day on Tuesday in a North Canton co-ed tournament. Our tennis team right now, our girls tennis team's 1-1. They opened up at Parma at Normandy High School with a 5-0 win, and then they played a pretty good Worcester team the other day. They got beat. They won one match. It was 1-4. But great numbers. JV team, I believe we have 31 or 32 girls out for tennis this year, which is awesome. And really all our teams, I've been impressed with just the amount of time that kids were putting in this summer. When I got up here in June, there was always girls out there on the tennis courts, practicing, working at it. Obviously our football's been at it. I know our boys and girls golf teams were out, on the course all summer long. Volleyball, they were participating in different tournaments and open gyms going on for them. They open this Saturday at Mentor. They've had their last scrimmage tonight. So far, Coach Stropke, she's real happy with where they're at right now. They've looked good in their scrimmages. So she's excited about getting their season kicked off this Saturday. Cross. They'll be the last to open. They have their first invite next weekend, and their numbers are good, both our boys and girls. So, talking to Coach Dossel and Coach Bell, they're both excited to get started. They've just completed their camps. They go away for a few days together as a team. They each took their trips, and those went well. And I think they're ready to go. I've been impressed. I mean, in all our teams, not just on the fields, but every time I walk up to the weight room, there's somebody in there. And to me, that's probably one of the most important things for our athletes to be doing is getting in the weight room, getting stronger, working on agilities as well. And they're making good use of that facility.
Yeah. So we have, the teams you went through. A lot of experience with our coaching staff, which I'm sure helps. One new coach that I know you have to the table is our cheerleading coach. You want to talk a little bit about
definitely don't
our
want
to
forget about them. And they've been in here working hard, practicing. They were in yesterday getting signs hung up. They were in the other evening. I think it was last Friday night, late at night. They were getting all the spirit signs hung up. And doing a great job getting ready to get started tomorrow night. We're going through getting our runway entrance ready for the game tomorrow night, and so she's excited about getting started, and she's been doing a great job with the girls.
So Katrina Cordis is our new coach.
Yep.
She is a teacher. For those of you that don't know, is a teacher at one of our elementary schools. Does a wonderful job. She's replacing what I consider to be a legend, a Hall of Fame coach, Leanne Dietz, who just did a wonderful job with that program. But I'm sure Katrina will do a wonderful job.
Yeah, and Coach Katrina's been, talking to her some, finding out where everything's at, and getting everything ready to roll.
Great.
They were in the Hall of Fame parade last weekend, and excited about, kind of leading our band in the parade there.
So Nate and I have the pleasure every morning of watching the cross-country team run by our windows and make us look bad, show us up a little bit. Talk a little bit about, Joey and Gigi, both, great coaches there. You said good numbers again. I think in the past they've done a night meet, and this year I think they've gone away from that, as my understanding, talking to them. But what's their prognosis on this? I mean, they feel like they're going to be a pretty competitive squad this year. I mean, our boys team's been at state the last 2 years, I believe.
Yeah, no, and both of them, are excited to get the season started. Like I said, I've been impressed. I mean, cross country is not it's sometimes a difficult sport to get kids out because it's tough. Like you said, that's grueling in the training they do. But they motivate our kids, and I can tell you the numbers have been good. They were there all summer long, getting themselves in shape for the season, and I'm sure they're excited to finally get that first invite under their belt. It's tough when you're practicing every day, and they definitely put the time in.
Yeah, another one of our teams I know that I've heard about. I might have a connection to it is girls soccer. Yeah. Young teams. I've talked to Coach Eddie about. I mean, there are only 2 seniors on the team. Right. Having said that, they look like they have a lot of talented youth in the program. Has he talked to you about his outlook being so young?
Yeah, and obviously that's one of the things that comes up is their youth. But so far, like I said, we've got some talented young soccer players. Only the 2 seniors, but according to Coach, I mean, both of the seniors are doing a great job with leading, and those 2 are pretty talented. And kind of get some of those young kids in the mix with some ability. He's excited. I mean, and not only have they scored some goals so far in scrimmages, but defensively they've looked really well. They played well.
Good.
So, most of the time as the community and our school district come together to, enjoy our athletic events, everybody thinks about the sports specific. Talk to us a little bit about the work that goes on behind the scenes to prepare to host those events, and maybe a little bit about the team that you have that makes it possible.
Yeah. Well, it wouldn't happen without great people like you said around. It's not only obviously Brad Fox and what he does. I mean, Brad's fantastic, and he loves getting things organized and making sure that everything's just right for our fans and for our student athletes, which is really what it's all about. Mm-hmm. is having everything to be as nice as it can be for our kids, because they put in a lot of time, like we mm-hmm. talked about. I mean, they're here all summer long, working out, and we want it to be great for them. Terry Beard, our athletic secretary, has been phenomenal, taking phone calls, taking care of getting people their tickets, and this is the fun part when we get to start planning the events. There's a lot of paperwork and a lot of time spent in a computer entering physicals and forms and all that before they get started. But then, now that we're starting the events, this is the good stuff. And then none of this would be possible without, literally the hundreds of people that we have as game workers. Our ticket scanners, our ticket sellers, our ushers, our scoreboard people, our announcers, people running the music. I mean, we have some fantastic people who behind the scenes are spending a lot of time preparing for those events.
Yep. Takes a lot of people to make these events come off.
Right.
And like you said, you always want it to be done in such a way that honors our kids, considering the amount of time and effort they put in. Talk to us a little bit about some of the special events we have coming up with the Hall of Fame, homecoming, alumni events.
Yeah, I mean, pretty much every home football game we've got an event. Our first one is going to be our Biddy and Youth Football Night, Biddy Cheer and Youth Football. Like you said, we've got the big Hall of Fame night where we have our Hall of Fame inductees at the game to honor them. And obviously homecoming is always big, and we'd love to see people, our graduating class from the past coming back. That's usually a big night. We have big crowds, and of course it's a great night for the kids getting ready for homecoming and that. And then of course our last home game is always going to be senior night, where we honor our seniors, and we want to make that special for them. That last walk across the field, I always get chills, and kind of like Rich talked about earlier, you're not participating, but just getting chills because you know how much it means to them.
You mentioned our weight training program and seeing a lot of participation in the weight room. Sort of a behind the scenes guy that makes a lot of that go for us is Johnny Foster. Does a phenomenal job with our student athletes. Just highlight and tell people who is John, what's he do for us, and what's that bring to our athletic programs, what John does.
Like we talked about, I've been in education and coaching for a long time, and I've never been in a school that's been fortunate to have somebody like John and what he brings, his knowledge, and he's there to work with any and all of our teams and our athletes. He's here in the summertime in the mornings, and he's back in the afternoons. He's here during the school year. He's here, I believe, 4 mods most days, working with kids, and not just in the weight room, but he's doing things with stretching and agilities and things like that too. So he brings a wealth of knowledge that he shares not only with our athletes but with our coaches.
Also, Kevin, just a big part of obviously athletic events and even just into practices and training are our athletic facilities and grounds. Talk to us a little bit about how you see the state of our facilities and grounds presently, and some of the people that make our grounds and facilities work.
Sure. Yeah. Obviously we talked about a lot of people are involved on game night, but there's a lot of things that go on throughout the week to get ready for that night before those guys get there. And I just want to make sure that I mention Mark Randulik and Cody Miner and their crew, all those guys. Our facilities are phenomenal here. Everything is they make sure everything's is spotless and everything's ready to go for game night. I know we've been dealing with some weather, and we had a water line break on our boys soccer field. And those guys have been phenomenal. Obviously recognizing, get the water shut off, but then making sure the field's ready for the kids to play on, and not only those types of things, but making sure everything in Wakefield Stadium is spotless and ready to go for game night. They're out watering the baseball field and the softball outfield, and just the grounds all around. They take a tremendous amount of pride when you pull into the high school. Everything looks the way it should. The grounds are mowed and manicured. They're working on in front of the building today, pulling out some old bushes and getting ready to put in some new landscaping. And those guys do a great job, and we appreciate them.
You guys, both of you have discussed with me air quality this summer. I've never heard of air quality before this summer.
Yeah.
I wish we didn't have to talk about
air quality.
Right.
Air quality, but
right.
Is that something, and I know I saw, Kevin, you were referenced actually, I think in one of our Kent repository in Massillon Independent, I think some quotes from you on air quality. That's something that never used to worry about,
right.
But obviously it's a different world today. So how has that impacted our fall athletics, and what's like the gauge on air quality for people at home that might
Sure.
not know when we would have or wouldn't have practice based on air quality?
Yeah, so like you said, this is the first time that really it's ever come up, and a lot of it had to do with the wildfires. Most of it was caused by that. But basically, we just been monitoring. It didn't really have much of an effect. I think there was 2 days where we opened up our indoor facilities. Football came inside and used the wellness center one morning. I think we canceled one open field for soccer. They ended up coming in and working out in the weight room that morning instead. Cross country one morning didn't run. And the biggest thing is kids that have, especially with allergies or any type of respiratory illnesses, might be affected by it a little bit more than others. So what I did, we talked, of course, worked with our trainer, with Matt Root, and basically we looked at some NCAA guidelines, and anything from 150 to 200, if the air quality was in that range, we were going to excuse any athletes that had asthma or respiratory issues. Anything above 200, and I think there was 2 days that we had that were above 200 that we brought our athletes and teams inside.
Got it.
And it's just something obviously we'll keep an eye on now that it's become an issue. We added it to our emergency action plan just so coaches and everybody's on the same page. And we didn't want one team canceling and then somebody else being out.
Good, good.
Very good.
Yeah.
Well, appreciate you joining us today. Very glad to have you a part of our team, Kevin. And yeah, just looking for athletically a fantastic year. Appreciate you joining in for the Perry Panthers podcast, our first edition. And I hope as we continue to bring different people before you and different programs and celebrate the great things that are going on in Perry, that you continue to join us. Thank you.